Coach Belden, we'll start with you. I know you highlighted and talked about the triphasic training and how it's benefited your program there at Friends University. Is there anything you want to kind of talk about or highlight again from your talk?
Well, first thing, Coach Nelson, I'll tell you that I was a conjugate guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you're going to talk about that, and then on my COVID vacation, I jumped on a phone call with Cal Dietz and to talk about spring ankle and RPR stuff, and it ended up turning into a conversation about the similarities and differences between triphasic and conjugate. And so the thing you get out of that, and as you guys all know, that both systems are templates. Okay, you can't do conjugate exactly the way Louis Simmons does it at Westside Barbell, and you can't do triphasic exactly the way Cal Dietz does it at the University of Minnesota. We all have different weight rooms, we have different equipment, we have different skill levels of athletes. There's a lot of different variables involved, but I guess diving into a couple of things that we picked up from Cal that we've implemented that have made a difference in our program. First thing is just focusing on the different phases of dynamic movement, which for those people who aren't familiar with triphasic, basically we focus on the eccentric part of the movement, the isometric part, and then the concentric part. I think most coaches and athletes spend the majority of their time on the concentrics. Okay, but basically with each dynamic movement, with the stretch shortening cycle, all three of those components are there. So the big thing I wanted to talk about today was the eccentric and the isometric phase of the movement. So the eccentric training basically increases the body's ability to absorb high forces. Okay, when you can absorb those high forces, and you have the capability of doing that, then you have greater potential to store that elastic energy in the muscles and tendons, right? Okay, so now we move to the isometric part. Okay, if we do not train the isometric phase of the movement, and it's absolutely critical we train it for optimal transition between the lengthening portion of the movement, which is the eccentric, and the concentric part. Okay, so if we don't train it, then we're all that stored elastic energy, that free energy that we've just obtained in that eccentric part of the movement, we're going to lose that, and it's going to lead to inefficient movement, reduced power production, and less optimal performance. Okay, so when I started looking at these components of it, and then here I am, I'm timing pro agilities, right? And it made me kind of look at things through a different lens, as we saw athletes go over and cut and start to head back the other direction. I noticed that some athletes could not control that momentum. They go to cut and they just kind of keep going. We had other athletes that once they became stabilized there, they had a hard time getting started from the isometric movement. Then it started to click. I just always thought, hey, we just need more force production. We need more power work. We need more of this, more of that. And I started thinking, we need more eccentrics and more isometrics. And so that's when we started taking those components and putting them into the program. Now, with that, I think that you can take these two phases, and if you go through these two phases, you're going to realize some great benefits, but then you can go into some conjugate stuff after that. I think you can go into some linear stuff after that. We've tried a variety of different things with it, and to be honest, it kind of depends on our group. I think one of the things that's lost in coaching now is the ability to read the room and being able to read a group. And if they're a group that needs immediate feedback, they may want to work off that NSCA EPIC performance chart, so they get immediate feedback right now. I finished this workout, now I'm going to this workout. I think with conjugate at the beginning, and then also with triphasic, you've got to get a little bit of buy-in, and they have to trust the process a little bit. And that's one of the things that I think is probably one of the biggest hurdles with today's young athlete. So those are a couple of the things that we do in the off season that have made a difference. Now, with the eccentric training, you can work what a lot of people would call tempo training, where we might get a 4-second eccentric, a slow eccentric, or we can do overspeed eccentrics, where it comes down to altitude drops, depth jumps, drop jumps. Like one of our favorites is a trap bar with bands attached, a drop jump with, with band tension, and just trying to minimize ground contact time. So we're putting together, we're not just working slow with it. And every action that we do always ends with an explosive or a fast concentric action. Okay. With the isometric phase, one of the best coaching points that I picked up from Cal Dietz was you want to hit like a brick. So if I have a dumbbell bench for the sake of demonstration on a Zoom call, you can probably see this a little bit better, but bringing it down and pop, being able to put on the brakes, hold that position in a yielding isometric. And now we're going to finish explosively. Okay. We also use overcoming isometrics, and we feel like we get a lot of great strength gains, off of that. But there's a lot of different varieties of things that you can do with it. Okay. A few other things that we've implemented that, and first of all, if you ever hear Cal talk, he'll say,